Sure.
Well, aloha, Karen. It's so nice to talk to you. I haven't seen you in forever.
It has been forever.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long it's been.
I think it was maybe before I moved away from Bakersfield.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a long time because I lived in Ventura many years before
I
I moved
remember that.
to here, and I've been here 5 years. So
Oh, you have been? We've been here. We've been back here 3 years.
and you're in Bakersfield now, is that right?
We're in Bakersfield. We live in the Greens.
Oh, that's so nice. And
Yeah.
were you affected by the fires in California? Is that why you moved, or?
The last time, yes, last year, or no, I'm sorry, several years ago when there were fires, we were evacuated. And it was really a terrifying experience. And so for that reason, we decided to move out of the mountains. We were in Santa Rosa and our area was completely evacuated and we could actually see the fire. And we thought, you know what, we're too old to have to keep dealing with this stuff. So we came back to where it's familiar. I can handle Bakersfield at this point. I actually really like it.
Yeah, people say things about Bakersfield, but I kind of figure life is what you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I
And
did when I was in Bakersfield.
the nicest people,
Mhm.
I feel very lucky to be here.
That's great.
We have a nice home and I'm just happy.
That's
I have a great garden and you know how much I love gardens.
Oh yeah.
I had a huge one when I was here before, and this is almost as big,
Wow.
and it's pretty.
Yeah. That's lovely there. I know I met you through my good friend Rose, and she
Oh, Rosie.
uh, get to know each other, and I'm glad she did. That was
Oh, she knew we'd be friends.
yeah. Yeah.
And we were compatible, and you're so compatible with her that it worked out perfect.
Yeah, she's really great. She's having a great life now too.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's great. I remember one of my fond memories of you was we were at California Pizza Kitchen. I
Oh,
might have
yes,
been with Rose,
it
and
was.
yeah,
And
I
I think Jim,
I think it was well,
I'm not sure if it was Jim 1 or Jim 2.
I think I think it was Jim. It was Jim too, because we went over to talk to you, and you were kind of starry-eyed and saying that you had been planning to get married, and I said, well, my husband
Wow.
Juan does good weddings, and
Oh, yes, I wondered how we got Ron.
yeah,
I remember how that occurred.
yeah, that's where you
Yeah,
came from.
he was wonderful. I loved him. He was
Yeah,
such a nice guy.
and I thought it was a beautiful wedding. It was so
It
nice.
was. What
Your
was in
home, and
the backyard?
yeah, gorgeous. Just
And my
absolutely,
granddaughter, oh, it was so adorable.
yes, so special. Well, that's what I kind of wanted to talk to you about, since we both have been married again after our husband died. That it's that transition is kind of a challenge, and I think a lot of people don't know what to think about it or do about it. I know with me, when I met Ron, I really liked him and I loved spending time with him, but at the same time, I still felt like I was married. Because they say till death do you part, but we didn't
And
like
then they
end
did
it.
it.
We didn't get divorced. When Ron initially was calling Jacques my ex-husband, and I said, no, he's not my ex-husband. Please don't call him that.
Oh, yes. But
And
I don't really know how to say that. How do you say it? My deceased husband, how do you talk about that?
well, what I ended up saying is my husband who died, because
That's a lot of words
that is, it
for
really
people
is.
to process.
And when you say that die word, that upsets people
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
At the same time, I didn't ex just didn't work for me.
Oh,
Ex is
no.
somebody you get divorced from,
No.
not somebody that you loved and will
No.
probably love forever. There's still
Yes.
I feel like Jacques and Ron are both still part of my life.
Yes, yes. It's sometimes I think, well, my previous husband, and if they don't deserve to know, then I don't tell them any more than that
Yeah.
because I don't want to give so much of myself away.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know a lot of times when people didn't really know me, I would just talk about Jacques. I didn't give them a label. And
Right.
if they
But
wanted
that's
to ask,
confusing.
I could, but yes, it is confusing.
They want to know where he went.
Yeah,
Everybody wants the story,
yeah,
and it's so private.
it really is.
Yeah.
With a lot of people, since I was in Bakersfield and since we were both pretty prominent in the community, and Jacques had been at the college for years, was chairman of the philosophy department, and tons of people knew him for that or had him as an instructor. And then he did so much theater that a whole different group of people knew him for
Exactly.
his theater and his voice and all that. So it didn't seem like, as long as we were in Bakersfield, that um, people didn't know. But I had a hard time when Ron and I first started going out, and really kind of ticked Ron off. I'm surprised he stuck with me, because I I think I didn't want people to think I was dating
Or cheating.
or cheating. Yeah, yeah. I know I had an experience when Jacques died. We had a friend who was a doctor, he wasn't his doctor, but he was with a group where Jacques went for care. And so he knew exactly what was going on. And whenever Jacques would be in the hospital, he'd stop by and visit us just to visit. It wasn't a doctor patient sort of a thing. And he came to Jacques' service when we had it. And he called me afterwards and he goes, I know how it is when someone dies, that it's kind of hard to go places or do things. And he said, if you ever want somebody to accompany you, I would be
That's
happy to
nice.
do that. And it was great. And
Mhm.
like there was nothing romantic there, but I would fix him dinner every once in a while. And if there was something that I needed to go to that I really didn't want to go to by myself, I
Yeah.
would call him and he'd say, sure. He was grateful to do it. And one day we were at something at the theater, actually, and we weren't standing next to each other. He was someplace away from me when this happened. And I overheard a conversation of some people that knew who I was. And I don't think I even particularly knew them, but they knew who I was. And they were saying, did you see that? She's with that guy and Jacques just died. How could she be with somebody else so soon? And that just isn't right. And this real gossipy chatter. And it kind of shattered me.
See, I'm well beyond
Yeah.
caring what other people think.
Yeah.
I just, my life is mine,
Hmm.
and it's an infinite, it's an unknown amount of time, and I choose not to let other people change the way I think. Actually, you and Rosie scared me the most bringing Jim to me.
Really?
You two would be the most judgmental because you knew Jim and how wonderful he was, and how could I move on? But I was really lucky in that Jim left me a journal, and he journaled every day in it the last year of his life. And
Wow.
towards the end of the journal, he said, I don't want you to stop living because I have.
Oh,
I want you to live for me, love for me, enjoy the rest of your life. And he left me little hints of people to call if I had financial issues, or who to trust, and who he thought would be the best match for me as far as people to help and to ask for help. And so he sort of set me free. We had the incredible years, and then we had the not so incredible years, but great love. And so he was very kind in that respect, in that he wanted me to go on, he wanted me to prosper, he wanted me to continue in business, he wanted me to be me. And by him saying those things, it gave me a huge amount of confidence. So I didn't really care what people thought or what they said about me. Who cares? I am who I am. And
that,
I always just I just keep moving forward.
And that's so perfect. I'm glad you said that. I think people need to hear that from the perspective of somebody who's gone through it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I think a lot of people kind of stew about that after a loved one dies. Like, what am I supposed to do, or
Right.
what's
What would he think?
okay, or yeah, what do you think? Yeah, is he going to be up there judging me, or whatever? Um, and I just had this really wonderful conversation with a friend this morning, actually. Uh, my sister died last week.
I know. I'm so sorry.
It was it's I'm dealing with it. It
I
was
know, but on top of everything else, I know, I understand. It's just, doesn't it stop?
yeah, no,
Just give
no,
me a
this is going to
break.
continue happening over and over again.
I know. So we
But
have to get better and better at it.
yes, well, what the conversation was about this morning is the day after she died. Actually, I talked to Rose of
Mm,
all people, since
yes,
we've been talking about her, and she was she was wonderful. It was
she
a
is wonderful.
wonderful,
She's so
comforting.
compassionate.
Oh yeah, the conversation was just great. And one of the things that she said, she came when we had an ash scattering service for Ron here on Maui that was quite lovely. We went
Oh,
to
I
the
saw
beach, and
pictures.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
that
had
was great.
somebody, a Hawaiian kapuna, who
Uh-huh.
did the service in Hawaiian, and then we all paddled out on the canoe, and
That's
we
great.
took flowers. Everybody brought flowers with them, and so we took those flowers out and we scattered them out in the water. And so Rose was reminding me, she said, you know how cool that was, that when we'll put the flowers out in the water. And she said, maybe you'd like to do that for your sister. And since I can't go over there, they're just going to have a little
Oh,
graveside service for just a few people. And I can't fly to the mainland from here. And that's been kind of bothering me, not in that I really want to be on the plane, but that I felt like I needed to do something. So
you
I,
are doing something.
yeah, I am.
You
But
are.
I called a friend of mine who I've been going on walks with, and I think he would like it to be more than walks, but I'm
Well,
still
good.
dealing with that. But
That's great.
yeah, when we went to
Life happens.
yes, it does. We went to this beautiful beach. It's called La Perouse, and it's all black lava. There's
Oh,
very little sand. It's just big hunks of lava every place. And the weather was perfect, and the day was perfect. And I had gone through my whole yard and picked flowers from all the different plants. So it was a real big, colorful variety of flowers that I took out with me. And he took a picture of me as I threw them out into the water. And then I was taking pictures of the flower, and the water was so clear that I would take a picture of the flower floating in the water, or one of the flowers, and it looked like it was on the sand because the water was so
uh,
clear. So I was trying to get pictures with bubbles and stuff. And finally I just quit taking the pictures, and I was just standing there and watching the flowers go by. And my friend tapped me on the arm, and I looked over, and he was pointing down. So I
yeah,
looked
that
down.
was an amazing picture.
Yeah, I looked down at my toe and saw that butterfly there. And it looked, and I can't believe I got the picture. And it looked like it had its arms like on my, I didn't feel it, but I knew it
Oh,
was on my toe, kind of like giving me a butterfly hug. It was really neat. And
a
so,
guardian angel.
yeah, when I talked to, or a couple of days later in the mail, this was Thanksgiving week, so the days were off, and I put my blog out that had that picture in it. But the two people that I got cards from wouldn't have seen the blog before I got before they sent the cards to me. And I got two cards on the day after Thanksgiving, and I opened them up, and they both had a picture of a butterfly, the same kind of butterfly, same color, different, totally different cards. And neither one of them were sympathy cards, but they were cards that had butterflies on them that looked just like that butterfly. And I showed them to my friend Robin here this morning. She comes over to meditate in the mornings with me, and she said, that's just a message from Ron. Ron's letting you
Yes.
know it's okay, and
Yeah.
he sees what's happening, and it's okay. And that was really cool.
I think what's the deal with sympathy cards? You're already feeling sympathy. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's nice to
I-
hear from people, though.
It is. And I feel like I'm in touch with you somehow through the through
Mhm.
your website. And I think it's amazing how many new people have come just recently in like the last 6 months that they get you, they understand. And I'm thrilled for that because it's all the more hearts that open up and share.
Yeah. And I think that sharing's so important. I know the reason I started all this stuff with my websites and writing the book and everything was because after Jacques died, I was so sad, and I should have had things in a better perspective because he was sick for a long time and he was
Yeah,
the
we had
expert on
time.
death and everything. I had time to deal with it, but we didn't really. And
Oh,
I really, really was sad and really pretty lonely during that time. And when Ron died, the initial grief, of course, was initial grief, which is just
right.
hard. But when I was starting to work my way through that, I thought, okay, what do I do now? Because I am not going to do what I did after Jacques died. I can't live in that sadness. And at that point, I decided whatever it was that I did, and I didn't know what it was going to be yet, but it was going to be done with love and it was going to be positive. And
For somebody besides yourself, because in doing so, you give back to yourself, you strengthen your own heart.
yeah, and being able to figuratively hold people's hand. um,
Yes. Well,
and
so many people don't know how to share,
mhm,
don't give themselves the importance to say, I care. I mean, in the beginning, when Jim died, first of all, we had a lot of time to talk about it. And we had a release that we had planned to say to each other at the end. And we did it. It happened just the way we planned. And afterwards, for like the first 6 months, there was a chair, and everybody would come and sit in the chair and cry. And I'd sit there and bolster them and say, oh, it's okay. And here I am. I'm the one that lost my life practically.
mhm,
And they were crying. So you had to just make allowances for their sorrow.
mhm.
And after I allowed them all to have their sorrow, I never cried once. I never
Wow.
let go of it. Never. I mean, when he initially died, I fell on the floor. I folded towels in my hands and I fell on the floor and I went, oh, but that was it. And it wasn't until everybody else got pat on the back that I was able to actually cry. And it took a lot of time to realize that I was entitled to do that
Mhm.
and to encourage people to do that, to let it out. Don't bury it. It's too easy to bury it. And
Absolutely.
that hurts you forever. When you let it out and express what you're feeling, you can begin building a new life and carrying on with the things that make you happy and that make you feel successful and there's so much depth to you once you've lost a loved one. There's such a level of sorrow that you've experienced that I find I'm much more readily available to other people just to touch them and to tell them it's going to be okay. I promise you. You can't see that now, but give yourself time. Let it just pour through you and live every minute of it. And then you'll be able to let it go and think of you. So I
I
don't know if that works for everyone, but it works for me because I'm a positive person.
Yes.
And I want that for myself.
Yes. And it's beautifully stated. I think a lot of the issue comes from people just not dealing with or accepting death, or they have
Right.
experienced it before, and they're just plain lost.
Yes. Well,
They
I've had a
don't
lot
know
of
what to do.
experience with death. So I've taken care of a lot of people before we got to Jim. And so we did it very by the heart. We weren't scared. We knew what we were facing. Plus, we had Rose,
Mhm.
and she very much guided us through like a parent would guide you through. She understood the tightness that we had to one another, and she just got right in there, and accepted us for the couple that we were. We were prepared to face death. We were emotionally prepared. So when it actually happened, it was like, wow, I was ready for that. Not ever ready in your heart, but ready emotionally to deal with it.
Mhm.
Plus, I had a friend who came to stay, my very best friend, who came to stay with me. And she stayed with me for a week. And she made me get out of bed, and she made me go to a movie, and she made me go to a restaurant. She kept telling me, "You're alive, you're here, deal with it." And that was very helpful too. She knew me well enough to know I'd rather just hide in my bed and
Mhm.
not deal with it. But she kicked my ass out of bed. And
I
that was
think,
really good.
yeah, it's really important. It's great to have somebody that's got the guts to say something like that.
Yes, of
A lot
course.
of time people treat the newly bereaved with kid gloves, and they don't want to upset them, or they don't want to hurt them, or they ignore them.
Well,
And
I just think you have to be there for them.
yeah.
They come at their own pace. They come through it, each of them in their own pace.
Mhm.
You have to be able to set your own pace. And most people either want to characterize you as the widow forever. Well, I'm
Mhm.
not the widow.
Mhm.
Individual person that has wants and needs and desires, and I wanted to get on with my life because Jim said it was okay for me to get on with
Yeah.
my life. So I would say to anybody who is watching this, give permission to the people that you love to go on in life. Don't make them grieve forever because it's what you wanted for them, or because it's the worst thing you ever do is to them is to leave them. That's the worst thing he ever did to me.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he also said, live, go, be free, fly.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
I
It's
don't know if
so
it's
important.
beautiful, but it's what worked for us.
Yeah. And it's an important message. I know, I was thinking about at Jacques' service after I was in such a fog, just an absolute
Yes,
fog, that I just wasn't. There were so many people there, but they didn't talk to me. They were all busy talking to
because
each
they
other.
were all processing their grief.
Hmm. And
They lost Jock.
yeah, and I think they had no idea what to say to me, so they just didn't say
Right,
anything. And
exactly. Or they'll pat you.
yeah, yeah, pat your hand, and walk
Yeah.
by, smile, and cry a little bit, and walk by,
Or
and
I'm here for you,
yeah,
but they want to run.
oh, absolutely. The ones that say, "Just call me if you need anything."
Yeah, right. Well, you are in need,
Yeah, and it
and they
just
don't want you to call.
no, they don't. I know when Jacques was sick for a very long time, and we got to a point. It was back before they had things like uh, food delivery to your home, either from
Oh,
restaurants or from stores or anything. If you couldn't go to
mhm,
the store, you were out of luck. And
right.
I couldn't leave him by himself.
No.
I was by myself with him, and we literally ran out of food. And
Yes.
it happened because I kept calling people that said, "Just let me know if you need anything." And they didn't answer the phone, or they didn't return my phone call.
Oh, I'm shocked.
It it
I'm
was
really
it was
shocked.
bizarre. It just kept getting worse and worse, and I kept thinking, "What am I gonna be able to fix to eat? Because there's nothing here." The cupboards are bare, and
Well, I think
finally,
it.
somebody came.
that point, you can hire somebody to, there's always somebody out there.
I thought so. If they call
Really?
back or answer their phone, because I would have paid somebody to do it. But
Yeah.
finally, somebody came to my back door, of all things, instead of my front door, and knocked on the door. And I went to answer it. It was a nice looking lady. And she goes, "You don't know me, but I'm your neighbor. I live down around the block from you." And she said, "I'm friends with your next door neighbor. And she told me that your husband's very sick. And I was on my way to the grocery store and I wondered if there was something you'd like me to pick up for you."
That's very nice.
Out of the blue, a total stranger
Yeah.
would help me, but she had no emotional involvement. So she could do
Right.
that. It was no big deal.
She wasn't hurting
No.
for
So,
shock.
and that's when it made me realize that was what the difference was. I was calling the wrong people. I
Well,
needed to,
you don't know who to call. I mean,
yeah.
when COVID first started, the first person that asked me to help me was my gardener. And
Oh,
he
wow.
and after work would come and go to the market for us. I gave
Oh,
them a list,
cool.
and that's because he likes us and he knows that Jim has MS. And so MS, he has Parkinson's. And he knew that we just couldn't get around. I couldn't leave him. And that's what he did because he could.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. See, that's people forget the people that are around them every day.
Yeah.
They want to help. They just don't know what to do.
Yeah. And if
And I'm not an
happen,
asker. I'm not the
I'm not
person that
either.
asks people for
I
anything.
give all the time, but I don't ask.
So independent. Exactly. I'm so independent and I hate to receive, I hate to look like I'm asking for anything, but we have to toughen up. We need, and you have to be able to say, I need.
Yeah. And I
It's like
I
my
agree to
uncle
learn that.
sent me $1,000 and I was so shocked that anybody would send me money. But in reality, I needed the $1,000 when the first Jim died. So
Yeah.
people do what they think of doing.
Hmm.
And there's no crime in asking somebody to help you. It's sort of swallowing your pride.
Yeah. And reaching out. Like when Ron died, we lived here in Maui for 2 years, and we knew people that he had known when he lived here like 30 years before,
Oh,
way before I knew him. So we had those friends, and then we'd met new friends that lived right around us, but it wasn't a large number of people.
right. Well,
And
30 years,
yeah,
people leave.
so um, my friend set up the ash scattering service for us, and I thought, well, who's going to come? I thought it was going to be Rose and I, since Rose flew over, and um, his children flew over to be with us. Um, but I was quite amazed at the array of people who showed up, and they were um, our gardeners, our
Yeah.
housekeepers, our
Isn't that
doctor.
interesting? The service people,
Yeah,
the
so
people who have helped you and
yeah,
know you in their own way.
and it was quite wonderful to
Yes,
be
exactly.
and they
All
all
those
brought
spirits.
flowers out of their gardens. It wasn't like these big
Yes.
expensive funeral sprays that you see, but they were
Oh,
so
I hate
heartfelt.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just beautiful. Just absolutely
I actually
beautiful.
think that's the ideal way to do it. I don't like funerals. And you saw that when Jim died, I had a barbecue.
Yeah.
About 5 months later, I had everybody come to a barbecue and bring a picture of them with Jim and tell the story. And everybody got up and told their stories. And it was great. It was so warming and loving.
It's
So
beautiful.
it's all in how you want to do everything. Do you choose to do it maudlin or do you choose to do it upbeat and moving forward? And Jim would have loved it. And speaking of sprinkling ashes, he's still with me in the jewelry case.
Oh, wow.
I'm not ready to let go. Now, my brother, I scattered, and
Mm.
my niece, we scattered at sea. And the best part was it was at sunset, and watching those waves move those flowers toward the sun as it was setting was the most remarkable thing. I'll never forget. I can instantly click onto that picture and feel happy.
Yeah.
She
with
loved the ocean.
Ron's service, my friend had set up for drones to follow the
Oh,
canoes
interesting.
out into the water. And so we had a video of that happening. And my favorite part of the whole thing was watching the flowers and the ashes mix, because you
Yes,
actually see the ashes float
yes,
through the water, and seeing the flowers and the ashes floating out away from the canoe.
yes,
It was so beautiful. And
it
to
was.
me, it was such a sweet, beautiful memory.
And
Uh,
he would have loved it.
he would have loved it. It was
Exactly.
just so perfect for him. It was absolutely perfect for him. So,
So
it,
tell me about your book.
well, the book is, it's been such an interesting journey to do the book, because I hadn't really thought of writing a book, but
Oh, you're perfect for that.
yeah. Well, I've
You're so
written
good at
3 collection
expressing
books, and
yourself.
I've taught writing for years, so it seemed logical to do something like that, but I hadn't really actually contemplated doing it. But the story of how the book came to be was that several months after Ron died, a very good friend of his who was about 20 years younger just dropped dead. Wasn't
Oh,
anticipated at all. And I was so concerned for his wife. They'd been um, close close family friends in Ventura, and they actually didn't live very far from us in Ventura, so we knew them. And she was young to be a widow, and she had a
I
daughter
think
that,
all of us were young to be
yeah,
widows.
I
You
did
never
too,
really
actually.
can be.
But she all I could think of, she had 2 daughters, one was a senior in high school and one who was a sophomore in college. And I thought, she's not going to have a clue what she needs at this moment, what she needs to think about, what she needs to do, what she needs to ignore, who she doesn't need to listen to, all that sort of things. And so I just sat down, and I found out Rose actually was involved in this, because Rose was supposed to have gone out to uh, coffee with her the morning after Chap died. And uh, Rose didn't know that I don't think that Lori had gotten around to telling anybody yet what had happened. And so Rose called me right away. So I knew very soon after it happened. And I wrote all this stuff down, and I thought, if I mail it, things from the island can take a week to get to the mainland.
Yes, yes.
It's unfortunate, but that's sometimes it's quicker and sometimes it's longer. And I figured if I emailed it, the chances of her being on the computer that day were not very high. And so I just sent it to Rose and said, could you please fill
Here.
this out and take this over to Lori right now? And she did. And later, Lori let me know that that was so precious to her, so important to her, because she really hadn't thought of anything that was in the letter. And it was very, very helpful to her. So I thought, well, I've got to do more than just write a letter. And I had a friend who was dealing with cancer a couple years before. And when she was going through all that, I sent her something every week. It was a text,
Oh,
a
that's so
card, or an email,
nice.
or something while she was going through that. I thought, I'm gonna do that for Lori. And so I thought, well, what would I say? So I sat down and started writing what I would say. And I ended up with 52 different paragraphs that like took you from the
Oh,
beginning, on forward. And I take pictures all the time in Maui with my phone.
oh, of course.
There's so many beautiful
There's
things.
so much to do
Oh yeah.
to
So
take pictures of.
yeah. So I made 52 cards that had a beautiful
Oh,
Maui picture on the front, and then whatever that paragraph was inside, and numbered them and printed them off just at home. And um, as I was sending them out, I thought, you know what? I have an outline for a book.
yeah.
And I hadn't thought of it before that, but it was. And I found an incredible agent who helped me through the process, because in the past, when I printed or published books, the publisher came to me and asked me if they could do it, and then they took care of everything. All I had to do was write. But it's different when you want to write a book and have somebody else publish it for you. And anymore, to get it published instead of self-publishing, you really have to have an agent.
Right.
So I fell into this fabulous agent who's in Toronto of all places.
No,
Uh,
that's the place.
yeah, Mariflor Toniato is her name, and she's just great, and she helped me so much. And I wrote the book. I would do it one chapter at a time because each chapter was different.
It's growth,
Yeah,
the
and
whole
it
process.
was through, and with that process for each chapter, I wrote some kind of activity for the person reading it to do,
That's great.
and and it was all positive. The whole book is looking through positive eyes at what's happening and what's going on.
I think we have to take it the one step further. We had the patriarch of our family left us by choice
Mm.
this last about 2 months ago,
Oh wow,
and nobody knew how to handle it.
wow,
You know,
that's a
it's
hard
one
one.
thing.
It's really
It
hard.
is. I think that needs to be addressed. You
Hmm.
know, that's a whole different set of circumstances. I mean, there's children involved and the surprise and the shame, which shouldn't be attached to
Shouldn't
the
be.
family.
No,
The
exactly.
publications in the newspaper, and everybody knows, and not being able to have funerals, and all of that has made it a really touchy subject. You know, I haven't told anybody yet how.
Yeah.
You were the first person I actually told.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I can't wait till your book comes out so I can give it to them, to the whole family. I've already ordered them.
Oh, good.
Them, because nobody really knows. And the wife doesn't even know how to write a check.
Oh wow.
It's so unfair for someone to leave their wife so unprepared. So maybe this is a second book. I don't know.
Well, it's something that I ended up, it seems like, and I don't know whether it's because we blame everything on COVID, but I'm sure that that has a lot to do with it.
Well, it may have, but we don't know that.
No,
And
and you
it
never
was
know
such
when
a
that's
shock.
happening. I've had it recently. It's happened a few times, and I hear about it. I think people go, "Oh well, Emily will understand her." So I
It's
hear a
not
lot about it.
easily understood.
Yeah, you just don't know. The
Mhm.
most recent experience that I had was with a dear friend who's uh, who she was. My friend was very attached to this person, and they. I'm not sure I believe that it was suicide, and I'm not sure that anybody else believes it was suicide.
You
There
think
were,
it was murder?
yeah, and
Oh,
there were so
wow.
many things attached to it, and they were trying to get the police to investigate, and everything was just kind of brushed under the carpet. And so it was very difficult, very, very difficult, because it's bad enough, number one, to lose someone, number two, to have you think it's suicide, and number three, to think it wasn't suicide.
Now it's worse.
So it's really, really hard, but it's interesting that I've been having people that I don't know reach out to me from reading the things that I have online and asking me if I can um, talk to their group, or um, if they can talk to me, that sort of thing. And I'm not an official counselor. I'm not I'm
No,
not
I
licensed
understand.
or anything. It's
But
the
we've
a
set an
peer.
example. We've set an example for other forms of death and survival. And there are people who are lost out there in the world with no one
Yes,
to
lots
advocate.
lots of people that are this
Yes,
way. And my message is, the most important thing is to take care of yourself.
of course.
Because if you can't do that, then you can't function.
But
You
she's
have to
still
function.
taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
She's in the same position I was in, and I'm sure you were too.
Mhm.
It's very delicate.
It is. But if you can get a hold of yourself and your own feelings, and that's why I'm such an advocate of writing, because you
Yes.
find
No.
things in writing, and there's something about uh, writing something enough. For instance, when Jacques and I were married for 22 years, and
Right.
right about our 5th wedding anniversary, something was wrong, and we didn't know what it was. And it ended up being his heart, and he had to have heart surgery. He had 7
Right.
bypasses. I didn't know you could
Oh my
do.
God. I didn't know more than 4.
Yeah,
I guess I've heard 5.
they had to draw me a picture to show me what they did,
Where, yeah.
because it just didn't make any sense to me even. But when that happened, so many things were going on. I was singing and dancing in a role at the melodrama that I was so thrilled about, my first paid actress job, Uh, it, it was right in the middle of that, and on the day of a performance, I had to call the melodrama and say,
Oh,
"Can't be there tonight," and then
sorry.
yeah, and they handled it. They were professional enough that they were able to put somebody in, and it worked out fine. And they ended up taking over my role for the play because I couldn't go back. But I had to tell people when somebody had asked me what happened, I had to tell them every detail about
Oh
that
no.
day and how it went. And there were some really strange things involved in it that I just had to tell it all. And I found that the more I told it, the shorter my story got every time.
Yeah.
And so I thought I got to write this down. And it wasn't for anybody else to read. It was for me to write down every single detail of what happened.
Chronologically.
Yeah.
So you could order it in your mind.
Yeah. And once it was written out, I could just fold it up and put it away and never had to look at it again. I don't even think that still exists. I'm not, I don't know what happened to what I wrote down, but the process of it was so freeing.
Yes.
Because
Oh,
it really,
absolutely.
then if people asked me what happened, I said, well, he had some blockages and he had to have surgery to have it repaired, and that was all I told him.
It's
I didn't
so easy.
tell them all the all the details anymore. So when people are struggling, especially in a case like suicide or car accidents, like I called my cousin to tell him about my sister dying. I
Sister.
just talked to him yesterday. I hadn't talked to him in a very long time, and he told me that his nephew's son was 15, and just a couple of weeks ago he went out on an ATV and died.
Mm.
Had an
Oh,
ATV accident and died at 15. And with everything else that's going on in the world, that's the last thing you expect to hear.
what a waste.
Yeah, it's so sad. But this whole thing of unexpected deaths like that's totally unexpected. Somebody that gets killed in a car accident. I had a dear friend leave our house one night and not make it home.
Oh,
Uh,
goodness
yeah,
gracious.
yeah.
That's terrible.
It was a head-on accident with a semi, and
Oh,
that was it.
that was
He,
his mom?
he was gone.
Yeah.
Uh, and so when things like that happen, it's different. I say my sister's death was sudden, but she was 80 and she had been in and out of the hospital for 10 years. And so it wasn't unexpected. It just was unexpected at that time. So whenever anybody goes, whether it's expected or not, Jacques had been sick for 2 years before
Yeah,
he
exactly.
died.
So did Jim.
He still died,
Yeah. How dare he?
Yes. But the process of going through and really examining as you're putting it down chronologically in writing and having it putting in the details like the anger and that sort of thing. I'll tell you one little thing about Jacques' experience. They did an angiogram in the hospital. And when they did it, the doctor came out and he told me, you cannot tell your husband what I'm telling you now, but he has these absolutely severe blockages and he has to have open heart surgery immediately. And if you tell him, then you could be killing him because of how he'll react, because I can tell that he's a very emotional person. And I said, thank you. And he left and I went back into the be with Jacques, and when Jacques came out from underneath the anesthetic that they had put him under, they usually don't for that procedure, but he was kind of so they knocked him out. And he said, what'd they find? And I said, well, they found some blockages and they're going to do heart surgery, and then you'll be better. And he says, oh, okay. Well, then the doctor comes in and he says, he starts giving him this BS. And Jacques said, excuse me, doctor, my wife told me what's going
I've
on.
already
I'm okay
heard.
with it. Don't worry about it. And the doctor was so mad. He
Oh,
went
he was?
out the door, slammed the hospital door to his room, went across the street to his office and called me on the phone. And he says, you come to my office now. I thought, you got to be kidding.
Yeah, who do you
And I
think you
told Jacques, and Jacques said, you go, I want to see what it is he has to say. So I said, okay. And I went over there, and what he did was show me the angiogram and told me to show me how significant his blockages were and how bad it was. And he wanted me to know that if he died, it was going to be my fault, because I
Oh,
told him.
that's ridiculous. This is
And
a
I
no
said,
fault
thank you very much.
situation.
One of the things he pointed out was a blockage that they call the widowmaker.
I know that one very well.
Yeah. And he told me about that, and I hadn't heard of it before then. Well, fast forward to several years, I can't remember how many years later, but Jacques was having, and it was also in conjunction with the wedding anniversary, was having, he says, this feels like it did before I had the last surgery. And I said, well, we're going to the doctor right now. And so we went in, he had the same test performed, and the doctors said that he needed to have he had a severe blockage that needed to be fixed. And I thought, I don't know how they can fix any more blockages since they did 7. But Jacques said to the doctor, who was a friend of his this time, he said, I really want to see the angiogram. Am only got to see my last one. I didn't get to see it. So he said, okay. And we went over. And this friend that I told you about that would escort me places, the doctor in the thing, was there. And he came into the room with us. So the 4 of us were there watching this. And his doctor pointed out this blockage that says, and that's the widowmaker, and it needs to be fixed. And the other doctor, friend of ours that was watching this, said, excuse me, up there, that's already been fixed. That's not what his problem is. His problem is this leaky valve right here. It's the valve that needs to be replaced. We already had the hospital or the surgery scheduled for him to have bypass surgery at a hospital in La Jolla. We were going down there to have it. We were just on our way out the door when we saw this. So we had to change all the arrangements. He had to go to a different hospital at UC University Hospital in USC in Los Angeles. And everything was different because that friend of ours was in the room at the same time. And when that guy said widowmaker, it was a red flag for me.
Ding, ding, ding.
And I was glad that I'd had that very strange experience.
You were lucky.
At the time, I didn't understand why I was having it. When that happened, I understood why it happened.
Yes.
It was connecting the dots,
Right.
Kind of weird.
That's
anyway, that was
where
a long story.
Rosie was very helpful to us. She said, oh, she scoped him and she said, oh, she didn't say anything. And I said, okay, just tell us. We want to know exactly what's happening. I said, Jim has a doctor. He said, I have a dentist appointment to have my teeth cleaned on Monday. And she said, if we don't get you to surgery, he'll be dead by Monday. And so she had us go over to the hospital and she operated, and it was way into the night when she came out, and I'd been sitting there all by myself all this time. And the first thing she did were those beautiful eyes, with her beautiful eyes over the mask. And she came out and she just hugged me. That was such a unique experience that I wasn't alone at all. She's just so compassionate and loving. Yeah. So you just never know what you're going to get when you get a doctor.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I think it's really also so much easier if you just share everything. Don't hide anything. It's not your right to hide it from them.
That is
Everyone
so
needs
important.
to know. Yeah.
Absolutely. People can deal with the truth. What they can't deal with is the not knowing,
The unknown.
when they know that you know and you're not telling.
Right. And they're waiting. It's like, so
Yeah.
they're waiting for you to tell them. Jim and I deal with complete honesty about everything with this disease. It's just kinder. And I'm the one that's holding up the family, and holding up all of all of the trauma. I'm like taking it in and dealing it out to everybody. And so you have to talk to me and you have to tell me the truth, because we're one of two people
Mhm.
and we both need to be on the same ground. We have to know where we're going to and what we're doing.
Yeah, and don't make decisions for me. Let me make my
Right. And logistics, you
yeah.
need to be part of logistics. It
Mm,
shouldn't be any one person doing it all.
yeah,
You need to do it together.
absolutely.
I, those are the things I know
Yes.
from my experience.
Well, I have absolutely enjoyed speaking with you, and
Oh,
it's
me
so
too.
nice to visit
It's
after all this
so,
time. And
I know it's so nice to see you. I also wanted to know if you talked to Marjorie Bell.
I have not recently. We
I
email
think
back and forth every once in a while.
you should talk to her about your book, because she does some really good book reviews in the Californian.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and so I think that would be a good medium for you.
She's great. She was I think both my kids had her for English at the
Oh,
high
really?
school. And then I directed her daughter in a play at Stars Dinner Theater that
Oh, right.
and it was wonderful. She was perfect for the role, and I got to know Marjorie better then because she was around a lot for that. So she's a special person. I will contact
Yes.
her. Thank you.
And you are both on Facebook together. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is a perfect match.
It's a good
So
idea.
I'm looking forward to the 19th and getting my books. I
Oh,
know
cool.
already where they're going.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to have some sort of a virtual book launch party.
Oh,
So I'll
good.
let you know exactly when that is.
Okay.
I'm in the process of figuring out what to do and how to do it right now. But
Right. So
but
they put all of that on you. You have to do it all.
so they do an awful lot. This company is wonderful. They've got people like one of the people on my marketing team is in Norway. So
Oh, really?
they were already before everything shut down, a lot of people were working remotely anyway. So excuse me. Um, they do an awful lot, but there's some things that are more personal that they expect of me. So I'm
Um,
working on they're helping, but I'm working on that and trying to figure out exactly the logistics. So I'll let you know.
okay. Oh, yes, for sure. Jim
So
and I would be happy to see you again.
that would be great.
Drink water.
I'm going to I've got it right here. It's windy over here right now, and it gets really
Oh,
when it gets that windy, it gets kind of dry, and people go,
yeah.
"Oh, you're coughing," and no,
Oh,
nothing to worry about.
yeah. Everybody worries here. We have quite a few cases here.
Yeah, I've seen the numbers for there. I know I'm still teaching for the university there,
Oh,
and um, but I've been teaching online for years, so it's not different for me. But I keep getting messages a couple times a week saying there's been somebody on campus who had it, and you have potential exposure if you were in this place during this time.
yes.
And every time I get one of those, I think, there's nobody on campus. There's only a few people that stayed there because
No,
everybody's teaching remotely and working remotely.
right.
There are a few people that have to stay there. And it's like, who, this must be a large percentage with the frequency that I'm getting these notifications.
We wear masks everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
but I must tell you that not a lot of people do. This is a very stubborn community.
I know that. I was
You know the
grateful
makeup
to
of
leave
this
that. Yes.
community. Don't
That
tell me what to
situation
do.
there. Mm,
So it's difficult. Emily, I'm very happy to have spoken to you. I hope that in some way, anything that I might say might help somebody else. Because I'm
that's
different.
the
I'm
plan.
different in dealing with it than most people. I'm really grounded person. I'm really, just live
Yeah.
your life. Live, love, be
Mm.
kind. This is all there is anymore.
It really is, and I think it's so important to see things from different perspectives. I know
Yes.
when Ron died, I thought, well, I didn't have all this online support that is out there now when Shock died, so I'm gonna look, and I started joining different bereavement groups and widow groups and that sort of thing, and they were so sad, and I
Yeah.
understand that people were going through
I've
terrible
had
things, but
I've
there
had
was
my
only so much
sad.
I could read of that. I thought I that was one of the things that influenced me to go forward with doing things like I'm doing, that it's so important to have somebody say, "You can do this," and,
Yeah. Well, you
you
have
know
to permit yourself.
Mhm,
You know, be kind to
absolutely,
yourself.
and it's okay to find joy again. It's okay to be happy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think like our discussion can do that. So one of the things I'm really interested in doing and putting out there is positive examples that people can look at and go, "Oh,
Oh,
okay, I can breathe, you know.
yes.
I'm
It's
not gonna feel like this
okay.
forever." So,
No, but there, and also to acknowledge that there are moments when you're right back to square one.
absolutely. But
And
you know that you don't have to stay there.
but
You
you have
can
the tools
uh,
not to. And sometimes I'm empathetic and I feel other people's
mhm,
sorrows that come to me. And for me, it's really important to separate out what belongs to me and what doesn't.
yes.
So
Yeah,
that's another important issue.
absolutely. Well,
So
thank
I'm
you.
really happy to talk to you. I love you. Be well.
Okay, you too. We'll
Okay.
be in touch.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.